Don't forget to check out and grab your copy of our two newly released books, Football, a Love Story, and What Did Football Teach Me? These books feature over 100 stories from current and former coaches, players, executives, and entertainers from across the football landscape, describing what got them involved in the game, what they love about it, and what life lessons the game taught them. You can find your copy or order your copy from our website at footballgameplan.com/books. Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the playbook, here with football game plan analyst and high school recruiting analyst for Football Game Plan, Gene Clemens, and we're bringing you the 2016 Football Game Plan Recruiting Roundup. And Gene, you've had experience in doing this thing as a college coach, the recruiting aspect of it. Take me through that process of from the recruitment to how crazy signing day is for coaches each and every February.
Well, signing day is always a great time for a coach because it means that you're going to add new blood, new life to your program. There are two trains of thoughts, and most people believe that when coaches go out, they're trying to just collect the best talent. And in some respects, that may be true, but really what they're trying to do is to collect the best talent that fits their team. So there may be some guys that you say, oh, well, why didn't he get an offer from XYZ when he had an offer from all of these other places? And that coaching staff may have just decided that kid didn't fit into the type of scheme that they wanted to run at their school. It has nothing to do with the talent of the kid, but more just the fit. And so I think when you look at signing day, it's an opportunity for you to say, hey, I've got these kids coming into my program. I believe that they fit our system, and I'm feeling very positive about the future.
And it's not necessarily a team wins or loses signing day. It's almost like the NFL draft or what have you, but it's all about the fit, like you mentioned, and development. So when we talk about the top classes or some classes that stood out to us, we're not saying these are the best in the country because of they got the best players, but they're interesting because it meshes fit with program. So starting with the FBS, who's in your top five?
Well, our top five going from 5 to 1, number 5 would be Michigan. And a lot of people didn't have Michigan in their top 5, but I really thought they had a top 5 class. When you're able to steal the number one recruit in the nation away from everyone in Rashawn Gary and get him into a program with what you know Jim Harbaugh does over there, you really have to feel good about that class. And they added some really good pieces in the linebacking core. They added another quarterback to go along to be groomed. They added a tight end that I really, really like as well. You have to be really pleased with what Michigan was able to do out the gate.
And it's becoming a common theme here, on signing day when you look at your number 4 team on this list, in Ole Miss. Talk a little bit about Ole Miss's journey as far as becoming now a recruiting power and what they were able to do this class.
Well, I mean, the impending investigations aside, when Hugh Freeze was able to land that class that had Robert Nkemdiche in it, a lot of people asked questions. Wow, Ole Miss just signed this ridiculous class. How did they do it? It came out of nowhere. But what you've seen is that class is springboarded, and they've been able to continue that success. So maybe it was just that Hugh Freeze found that formula to get kids that he wanted to come to his program, and now he's got it rolling. But that's why they make another return to the number 4 slot, not just because of a strong recruiting class, but because of the kids that they were able to sign and keep away from their arch rival, Mississippi State. The Caleb Metcalf, he's a big, strong, athletic wide receiver who is right around the Starkville area. And they were able to take him away from Mississippi State. So not only do they add a talent that they need on their program to replace some of the wide receivers that they've lost over the last couple of years, but they also keep a jewel away from competition. And that's what recruiting really is all about.
I mean, and you make a great point about it takes that one landmark class to really help get a program going in the right direction. And that leads right into your number 3 team, LSU, because I can remember when I want to say it was 96 or 95, I'm sorry. They signed the number 1 recruit in the country at the time, Kevin Falk. when everyone and their grandmother was leaving LSU. Peyton Manning left Louisiana. Marshall Faulk went out to San Diego State. So they had tons of talent leaving the state, and being able to get that landmark player in '95 and Kevin Faulk kind of made LSU the place to be, and they had a stranglehold on the state since, and they end up in your top 5. They're actually number 3.
Number 3, and for a reason. Louisiana may have per capita the most rich, talented area in all the nation. They may not have the same numbers as a Florida, Texas, California, but they definitely have just as much talent in that area. And what LSU has been able to do is to keep those people at home. And you really have to love what they've done. You call them LSU, I call them DBU, because they continually roll out these defensive backs that are all world. They play well in high school, they play great in college, and then they go on to the pros and they play well. They play well as on top of that. So adding to that, Christian Fulton, cornerback, who's coming in. They've also got Savion Smith that's coming in from IMG. Those are 2 of the top cornerbacks in the nation, and they're going to have an opportunity to not only come in and play, but contribute mightily to a defense that's going to be pretty darn good next year.
And you look at the team you have at number 2. We've grown accustomed to seeing this team in the top 5, I want to say, since the 80s. So explain to everybody why Florida State ends up at number 2.
They ended up at number 2 for me because if you just look at the amount of talent they were able to bring in this year, again, it's easy to understand why Jimbo Fisher has it rolling in Florida State. They took a little step back this past year with quarterbacking play. I don't think that'll be an issue this year. On top of the fact that they have DeAndre Francois, who's redshirted this year. For them, they're bringing in one of the best quarterbacks in the nation in Malik Henry. But the guy that you want to look out for, Shavar Manuel, he was a Florida commit who played defensive end and went down to IMG, and I believe bulked up to where he's really going to be at, which is a 3-4 technique or a 4-3-3 technique type of guy. He has the athleticism to play on the outside for you. He has the strength and the power to play in the trenches. They were able to steal him from the University of Florida at the 11th hour and bring him into Florida State. So again, just like Ole Miss, they strengthened their defensive line, but they weakened the depth of Florida, who we know has a phenomenal defensive line themselves.
Yeah, they are constantly putting out defensive line talent from college to the NFL. And speaking of putting out prospects from the college level to the NFL, you look at your number 1 team, Alabama, the reigning national champions. When you look at Alabama's class, what stands out to you the most?
Well, what stands out to me the most about their class and why they're number 1 again is the 5 offensive linemen that they bring in that are either 5 or 4-star guys. They lost a few people on the offensive line at center and especially at right tackle. Those guys will be replaced like that. They're bringing back Cam Robinson, who's, in my opinion, the best offensive lineman in college football. He's going to be coming out next year. He's not going to be there for his 4th year. As soon as he's eligible to turn pro, he's going to turn pro and be a top 5 pick. So they address those needs now. But the guy that I really love that they were able to get, and he's already on campus. He's been on campus for a full semester now almost, or he'll be on campus for a full semester, is Jalen Hurts, the quarterback. They actually used Jalen Hurts to be their guy to mimic what Clemson was doing. So they had a guy who had similar abilities to those athletic, tall, dual-threat quarterbacks that they've been facing, and now they're adding one themselves. That tells me that they really like what they had a few years ago when they had Blake Sims, and they want that type of offense going forward. Look for this young man to push for the starting quarterback position next year.
And when you look at this recruiting class as a whole, just from a national perspective, there's a ton of classes. I can always throw in Louisiana, University of Louisiana Raging Cajuns as an underrated class. But speaking of from an underrated perspective, who do you think did some great things on signing day that no one's really talking about?
Well, it's hard to say they're not talking about them. I think they're getting a little bit of love, but they had them rated outside of the top 10, and I thought that the University of Texas probably had a top 6 to 7 recruiting class. I don't get too wrapped up in stars and how many checks a kid has. But if you look at where the players that they had rated, they didn't have many 5-star, but they had an abundance of 4-star. I believe double-digit 4-star and double-digit 3-star prospects. And when you're bringing in that level at that amount, 20 plus guys who are either 4 or 3-star athletes, it really bodes well for what you're going to be able to do in the future. And we both have belief in Charlie Strong that he's going to get it going right in Texas. This may be that class that helps him take that step to the next level.
And when you look at 3 and 4-star prospects, you're looking at guys that may have some development left in their game. A lot of times you see 5-stars tend to be maxed out as prospects, so what you see is what you get if they should be rated as a 5-star. But getting those 4-stars, those 3-stars, I think that's what helps you make your class. Like you look at a Stanford doing great things with 3 and 4-star prospects, developing guys so when they are 4th year or maybe 5th year seniors, they're out there beating the brakes off everybody. So I think you're right in the sense that this is a good group of guys, a good crop of guys to bring in for Charlie Strong, who has done a solid job in developing talent back when he was at Louisville.
Definitely. And those 3-star guys, they're sneaky because they come in with a chip on their shoulder. They're going, I was just as good as that 5-star guy, but I didn't get the same type of love. And so now they're determined to make you love them at the next level.